Many of you have noticed that our front bumper cover has been off in a lot of the pictures and videos we've been making, and the reason for that, of course, is that we've been trying to fabricate a front hitch receiver. There is a factory one that bolts to the lower subframe, and it actually reduces the clearance in the front by at least 2 inches. Personally, for my vehicle, that's not clearance that I wanted to give up, so I am setting out to fabricate a front hitch receiver from parts I found on Amazon. And by some luck and scouring the internet, I think I've found the pieces I need. I'm gonna put all these pieces into my Amazon affiliate account, so you can click on the link below to go to my Amazon store. It's got a bunch of different items that I use for our off-roading and for the channel, but I'll make sure to have a separate category for the front hitch receiver. So what we're looking at here is a 1/2 inch thick 8x8 inch block. What I'm gonna do is end up cutting it in half, and we're gonna have a long mounting plate. More on that later. We've got these 1/2 inch 4x4 plates. We're gonna use those as gussets. And part of the magic, and where I got really lucky, is these 2-inch raw receiver tubes, 12 inches long, 2-inch, they accept a 2-inch receiver. They fit into the hole in the frame here pretty well. And what I'm gonna do is actually weld on some shims so I can get all this slop out. I'm gonna make it kind of fit in like a puzzle piece and hopefully get it tight enough that I have to actually hammer it in. But the really cool thing is that this gives me enough tube to go inside here that I should be able to get 2 to 3 really good bolts through there. I'm hoping for 3. And so that brings me to the next thing I found, which is really the final piece of the puzzle, and that is this Reese 65022 front mount receiver. I believe it's for like a F250 or 350 or something like that, but it's really beefy. It's rated for 500-pound vertical weight and 9,000 pounds winch line pull, so it's pretty beefy. What I noticed when I was ordering it is that it's got these really large mounting plates, and I figured that if I was going to take a chance on ordering a front hitch receiver, this would be a good one to take a chance on. And it was a good thing I ordered this because, as you'll see later in the video, to get the hitch receiver at the right height to the bumper, I actually have to use the bottom part of this mount, not the top. When I first saw it, I envisioned it, you know, the mounting plate sitting here and everything kind of hanging down. So what I'm gonna start with here is I'm gonna start by making the mounting plates. So I gotta whip out my welder and my grinder and start doing some cutting and welding. I'm not the best welder in the world, but I think with the gusseting and all the edges that will be welded together, I think I can get this to be strong enough for the purpose that I'm intending. And I'm pretty sure that once I get the bolts through this frame, it would take a pretty serious amount of force to rip it out. So I think it's gonna work. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below, but yeah, stay tuned for this build. So the first part of this project that I got to do is I want to notch this 4x4 here so that it fits down flush on the top of this. That's going to be my gusset. I got my notch made. I made it a little taller than I wanted, but it'll still work because it'll have some welds on the front and the back of this gusset. What I did notice is that this pressed steel, the way it was cut at a slight angle, so I'm just gonna slant my gusset so that that angle comes flush to the front plate, which will look like this, and that's what I'm gonna bolt to. Now, I did check a measurement here and find out that I will have to make more cuts to this piece of steel because it will not fit inside this bracket here. So you gotta make this puzzle fit together. I should be getting ready for dinner, but I got the pieces cut, welder's out. It's hard to stop. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, I finished this bracket as far as I'm gonna do. I know those welds aren't the best, but I think they'll work. The way I designed this is causes there to be just tons of welds, so I think there's more than enough. But look guys, I made an actual legit looking weld there for a moment. I don't know what happened differently, but something happened and that looks really good right there. But I'm pretty stoked. I don't think this is coming apart any way, shape, or form. So we'll have to make the other one tomorrow because it is getting late and it is time for Chinese food. I'm going to begin this morning with a little bit of a mock fit up here. So you can see my bracket, how it fits in there. And I've just basically used the screws that the bumper mounts into just to hold it in there for right now. I still need to find a way to reduce some of this slop with different shims before I put the bolts through. But so far, I'm liking my bracket a lot. On this side, I just have it spaced out with wood. It's not a perfect mock-up because the other side's not out quite far enough. But this is what I was concerned about earlier when I was welding my plate on. I should have offset it to this side just a little bit. That way there's more purchase behind here for some bolts. On this side, I am definitely going to build the bracket over just a little bit. That way I can get a bolt here, here, and here. When I initially test fit this, I thought maybe that looked like it was a little too high, but it actually ends up coming out or being approximately right where the black strip is on the front of the bumper. So pretty cool. So I guess practice makes perfect. I've gotten a good bit better at my welding technique as I've been doing this second bracket. I found out that if you go back and forth, that's what makes the cool little like welding wavy motion. And then just kind of go slow. And then the other tip I found out was to hold the welding stick at an angle. That helps a lot as well. I'm test fitting my first shim attempt here, and all I did was cut a portion of my angle out and place it on the lower inside edge of the receiver tube, and man, it shimmed as well as I could have ever hoped. I do need to kind of make sure that the angle looks good. I noticed with the angle underneath the bottom, it was causing the front face of the mounting plate to angle down too much. So I put this top piece on to help push down the back, keep the front up a little bit more. And it seems like with this design, it's going to just barely fit in. I'm gonna have to like really hammer it in. What I've come to the conclusion of is after I hammer this in, if the mounting plate is still facing down slightly, I'll just use some washer shims to tweak the angle, the final angle, once I get it mounted. So it would have been really cool if both sides were symmetrical and you could just make the shims the same, but of course the openings and the shapes of them are slightly different. So I'm gonna have to do some different shims on this left side. All right, put your mask down. Okay, Lenny's gonna put her handiwork here on the Pilot. There you go. Go slow, don't go fast. And if you want to make it look really good, you have to go back and forth slightly on the tip while it's moving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, that's too much. We're just trying to tack that one on. I don't know. I haven't tested
Got
it.
it.
Yeah, you did. All right, watch where you put that rod. Looks like you welded my clamp onto the thing too.
No.
By the way, I've done that before.
Did you?
Yeah. I just got back from the Tractor Supply Co. and I've got my enamel paint that I'm painting the mounts with to keep them from rusting. And I also picked up the nuts and bolts that I should need to put this together. So it should start coming together pretty quick here. While my paint's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and take out this air box, make room for any drilling I have to do. On this side, it looks like we have pretty much the same configuration, two 10mm bolts. And this is holding in the fluid reservoir for the windshield wiper fluid. So this is a piece of cardboard that got stuck to the paint, but I don't really care. And it's not quite dry. It's leaving fingerprints, but again, I don't really care. So this is a portion of my scrap 1/2 inch that I used as a shim on the side of the left side up here. And then I put just a bit of my angle on the back. And let me show you how this fits in. Tilt it down, get it past those. And then just kind of push it. And it barely moves. Once I get my bolts in, it'll be good. And on this side, I'm very pleased with how square it is to the body. On the other side, that was the problem, was that it wasn't lining up square. So we'll have to see what we're dealing with when we get the other side in, but this one is ready for some bolts to go through, I think. Cross our fingers that it lines up well. So this one is angled down just slightly, but I think I'll hit up on it a little bit, see if I can get a little bit more square. But if I can't, I might just live with it and just use some washers to space out the bottom when the hitch is put on it. So earlier, before I started welding everything together, I did do a test fit with the wood blocks, spacing up the hitch receiver about the 4 inches that I was going to get with the eventual mounts that I made, that I have on now. And now I'm going to do another test fit with the bumper cover and see where the hole, where the opening of the hitch receiver is going to line up with the front bumper. I actually have a little bit of wiggle room. I can actually flip it upside down and it raises it up, guessing about an 1.5 to 2 inches. And if I put it like it is now, then it's down a little bit lower. And that gives me a little wiggle room to see where I need to cut in the bumper cover, which is actually going to be one of the harder parts of this build. While I'm taking my ditch lights off here, just for anybody's information, this is how I got them to be relatively stable. I put a gigantic fender washer underneath and made them pretty secure. I bought my bolts from Tractor Supply Co. And at first, I was kind of upset because I couldn't find, what was it? I couldn't find any grade 8 hardware. I could only find grade 5. But then I looked at the kit that came with this front hitch receiver, and it's nothing. It's just zinc plated bolts in here, so I don't feel so bad anymore. So I'm gonna make sure I put plenty of bolts in here, but for right now we're gonna start with this top right corner, and then I'm gonna move on to the other top right corner. We'll get our first hole and bolt through. I switched over to my corded drill. It's got a little bit more oomph behind it, and so far I've pushed these 2 holes through very easily, so hopefully that'll make the difference for me here. Hopefully between all these used sets we have enough to finish this project. Then I'll be due for a new set. I think that one's dull as a rock. Well, it sucks, but I didn't have a single 1/2 inch drill bit that's still in usable condition, so back to the store I go. Don't tell Lenny how much these drill bits cost, because they were over $17 a piece at Home Depot. So I'm going to use one at a time. Hopefully I can return 2 of them, but I'll probably end up using them all at the rate I've been going so far. I figure I have enough sharp bits in the other sizes. I should be able to make it. So as of right now, my idea is that I'm gonna high lift up the front of this mount point and see if I can get a drill anchor point in the back of it to hold it square to the car. So I am happy. The back end of this receiver tube comes to here. It doesn't quite make it through this big hole. That would have been just super convenient. But so I can drill right in front of it. Snapped the little back portion of the drill bit off. I had it, barely grabbed on so that it would have extra reach. Thankfully, it still made it through, even when I had to choke up on it a little bit. That was a lot of wear and tear on that one drill bit, but I did get my first 1/2 inch hole through. So at this point, I'm gonna try to get 2 on each side to start with, and we'll go for 3 after that. And then same thing with the front of this. We're gonna go for 2 on each side, and then we'll go for 3 after that. After I anchored the back here, I went ahead and moved up to this front hole that we had partially created earlier, and it started just chewing up my new bit. Like, it was making no progress at all, and it pretty much broke the cutting edge. These are rated to be 5x life, rated for metal. I mean, these should be pretty tough, but yeah, they're not quite cutting it. Then I had 2 of these, I think they call them step-up bits, but I had 2 of them. Where's the other one? But yeah, so they made it through, which was good, but they both broke in the process. So I'm down to square one on that. That being said, for these shallower cuts, it does seem like maybe a higher quality one of those could work well. So that's good. So I'm scaling back my bolts for right now. This thing, I was lifting with the high lift jack, lifting up on it, and it's not moving, just with that one bolt in the back. For right now, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna basically do the essential holes. So I'm gonna move over to this side, do a hole in the back, and then I'm gonna put the hitch back on, and I'm gonna try to do the second hole for the mounting surface, and we'll go from there. I already chewed through $62 worth of bits in no time flat.
You did what?
I chewed through $62 worth of bits. But do you know what? Those things say they last 5 times longer than normal bits, and they only lasted me like 10 seconds, so I'm returning them. I'm gonna go back to the store and I'm just gonna return them, and probably have to buy more of them, but I mean, what's 5x life if they only last 10 seconds? And I don't think the steel I'm drilling through, it's not that hard, but what I want Lenny to do is hold this as I kind of show off the strength. With only 4 bolts in it so far, it's feeling good. It's not moving at all. The car is moving, but the hitch receiver's not. Even top to bottom, 0 wiggle. And let's see here. Ugh.
You got a mess out here too.
I do have a mess. I think we are accomplishing our goal though, which is having a good front recovery point. Oh, I found the other drill bit that I broke. So yeah, I don't think it's moving. I am gonna work really hard to try to get another bolt on the front of each side. For now, I might leave it, since I shimmed it so tight and actually had to hammer it in, I might leave the back anchor point as the only anchor point for now in this build. But yeah, let me know if you guys know a better way to drill 1/2 inch holes through 1/2 inch steel. Well, 1/2 inch plus steel. I'm all ears. It's costing me pretty much a fortune right now. This side, when you're drilling through the back side, if you decide to try to do this, do watch out. There's an air conditioning line and an airbag electrical line back there, so don't cut through those. Okay, so one of those $17 bits was the little bit that could, and it ended up helping me get 2 more holes drilled in the front. So as far as strength goes, for my needs, I think I'm okay. I can always use it and inspect it later. I did learn a lot on this one, on this build project. If I was building it, I would offset this plate right here over as far as you can. It's hard to explain, but you need to have enough purchase to get this bolt through and have enough room to clear the hitch receiver that this is welded to. This spacing of bolts is a lot stronger than, I'm sure, than this one, where we have one up top and one down below. This one's really close to the center though, so I think I'm okay with it. There's no room behind this for, there's no room for a bolt down here, down low. And then just like I said, I used some washers to shim this up. And as far as this goes in relation to the car, I'm happy with how level it comes out. I don't think it's gonna look weird or anything at all. The only last, well, I gotta do some trimming to make it fit. I've gotta cut some of the plastic and some of the metal to get this to fit. The last question mark is where do the hitch pins end up? The holes for the hitch pin, are they gonna be behind the bumper or sticking out? I think behind the bumper or sticking out, either one work as long as I can get to them. So like if I have to lay under the car and put the hitch pin in, that's okay by me. All right, so I'm running into some problems here. I'm not out of hope yet. I have some plans for how I can make it work, but I started notching the edges, the corners, to try to make the bumper fit around it. And basically I can't notch on this side anymore. So I started relocating this bolt hole to here. And of course my 1/2-inch bolts are all dead, so I can't finish that hole. But then I started notching here thinking it would be enough, and it doesn't look like it's gonna be enough. So plan B is to undo this bolt, take everything apart, hammer this back out. I need to cut this gusset shorter, and I need to hammer it in. Probably gonna hammer it in another inch just to be safe. But then one of the problems with that is that the hitch receiver itself, the end might not stick out very far from my bumper. Depending what I have mounted to it, like if I just keep a tow shackle permanently attached to the front, that probably won't be a big deal because the tow shackle will just be there and it'll probably look good. And when I go to mount the hitch receiver or something, or the winch, I'm sure it'll look fine. So we'll work around it. Okay, it's a new day and we got new cutting tools. So I went to Harbor Freight, picked up a couple multi-packs, cutting discs and reciprocating saw blades. But what I'm really excited about is I think the missing link that I was having issues with. I know that you're supposed to drill slower than what I was doing, like I get that. When I tried drilling slower initially with my slower drill, I think you guys saw it didn't work very well either. But I noticed that as from the smaller steps, the smaller bits, each one was a smaller step up, it was much easier. Going up to 3/8 was easy. It wasn't hard at all. This set right here from Harbor Freight goes all the way up to a 1/2 inch, but it goes up by 64ths. So there are a whole bunch of big bits in here, and I have a feeling it's going to make drilling a lot easier. I just hammered in the adapter after cutting the gusset shorter. I cut about 1 inch off the back here. It's still facing down just a little bit, but like I said, we can use the adapter with the washers here. But look how lucky we got. We moved it from this hole to this hole, which this hole's bigger, so I'm not, that's not perfect, but the fact that I can use one of the holes that I drilled is super lucky. I got lucky here. And my goal is to put a bolt through there, and then we'll drill another one up here. So with this project, it's hard to know what on the Pilot is built symmetrical or not. Like, the distance from here to the face, will it be exactly the same on that side? It looks like it should be. And I guess, you know, that's what I'm going to make my measurement off of. Measurements are looking really good, so I'm going to start getting the bolts in the back, and then I need to drill out this hole up here. Another really interesting note for yourself: if your drill bit gets hot and stops cutting, you actually can harden the hole that you're trying to cut. It'll actually make the metal up to 6 times harder by just heating it up like that. This is a kind of nerve-wracking moment because I can't go in very much farther. If you look at the power steering cooler right there, I'm really close to hitting it. I guess I could change the design and make it some sort of more traditional looking cooler, but we are gonna have to see if this will fit. I think we're gonna have to cut this portion of the bumper off. I think I'm gonna want to, because it'll let me, we were worried about getting the hitch pin. If I have this off right here, I can just reach up in here and modify the hitch pin. My cut's not perfect here. I tried to get it best I could. I can get rid of this silver easy enough, and while I'm doing that, I'll probably just cut it a little bit wider here to kind of make it the same on both sides. I'm gonna have like a shackle just permanently in here that will cover up this hole. That'll be my dressing to make the edge look more finished, and eventually we'll get a winch to put in here. Of course, we're not done yet. I've got to get as many nuts, as many bolts through this thing as I can, make it as strong as possible. So I'm gonna continue. I'll show you the finished product though. I touched up my hole in the front here. I can see it's a little bit crooked. I need to fix that. But I cut my access hatch down here in the bottom. This should be enough room for me to reach up in there and put the hitch pin in. Today's the day. I think I finally got everything kind of prepped here. Disregard the extra trans cooler, that's for another video. I just did some work while I had the bumper cover off. But this right here must be a sensor for like the airbags. It was connected right here to the bottom of the stock bumper. I just kind of zip tied it right here. Let's see here, what did I run into? What kind of issues? So I did put some shims at the bottom to angle up the front receiver a bit. I think that's gonna make it look just about perfect once we're on level ground. We're not on level ground right now. On both sides, I was able to get a bolt through the front and the back. I do think that's pretty important if you want this to have any chance of holding up. And on this bolt, you gotta be very careful when you drill through that you don't drill through and hit the power steering line. And let's see. During this project, the best set of drill bits that I personally found were these ones from Harbor Freight. They go up in 1/64 sizes, which lets you work your way up really slow. I did find out that moving your drill really slow and having these really small gradual increases in size really helped drill through the metal. That being said, I still had a lot of break-offs. I mean, I broke so many drill bits on this exercise. On this project, I had just tons of them break, and every time they break in the hole, it's a challenge to get them out. It depends where and how they break. But last night I was drilling and I had one break off with only like 1/8 of the top sticking out. It was too small for even vice grips to get on very well. And I was able to very carefully weld a nut on top. And so this right here, guys, is hard-earned success. You can see how bad it sheared off. I mean, the end of the drill bit is actually twisted and bent. But I was almost all the way through the drill the frame when this broke like that. But yeah, so if you take on this project, just know that you will break drill bits. You'll consume them. But I think the results are going to be well worth it. I think that having a good front recovery point is going to be a huge asset to my vehicle. All right, so my Pilot's put back together, and it fits pretty darn well. I'm pretty proud of myself here. The hole, I thought I had cut it a little bit wrong, but after I got it all put back together, Somehow it ended up being almost perfect. There's a little bit of like a raised edge from where I think it's the lights and the hitch together are kind of buckling it, but it's really not very obvious. And I'm really stoked. So you do have to reach up and under to put the hitch pin in. I'm gonna experiment with that in a moment. I actually haven't done that yet, but everything's looking good. I got the bumper lines to come back together pretty well, and I'm loving the hidden front hitch receiver here that I've created. So I'm gonna put all of the parts that I used to build this hidden front hitch receiver into my Amazon affiliates account, so you can go and browse in that store. It's got all the different gear that I use on my trips, but I'm gonna make a new category for this hidden hitch mount build, and you can buy all those pieces there. I get a little cut of that, so it helps me out. I will say I'm not an expert fabricator by any means, but as you could see probably in this video, I am pretty resourceful. So I would encourage you to kind of measure your ability, you know, before taking on this project. That being said, it all came together pretty well for me, and I think the results are awesome. I can't wait to actually put it to use and see if it holds together. Hopefully it does, but I think this is definitely the strongest front hitch receiver that I could have created on the Pilot. Needs a new paint job to look nice on the front here, but let's see what it looks like. To help myself out with clearance, I just bought just a traditional shackle here, or a hitch pin. Let's see how hard it is to reach up in here. I cut an access point right here. Due to the nature of this build, this compromise of having to lay down to put the hitch pin in is definitely something that I'm willing to deal with. And that's what it looks like. Wasn't too bad. And after having that bumper cover off for such a long time, I forgot how bad the clear coat is on it. But again, like I've said, at least the clear coat's good on the rest of the vehicle. I've got some scratches and some different chips in some places, but overall it's in pretty good shape. But disregard the peeling clear coat on the bumper cover. But man, I just am thrilled with how this thing turned out. I can't believe that it comes to be perfectly flush with the bumper. In some ways, maybe it'd be better if it was sticking out a little bit farther, but when I mount a winch to it, I'm wondering aesthetically how it's going to look. I wonder how far it's going to stick out, or if it kind of tucks it in nice and tight. If it's tucked in nice and tight, I might consider actually rolling with it, but the cool thing about having a hitch mounted winch on the front is that I can actually move it to the back if I need it, which is awesome. But yeah, this was a really awesome project to have under my belt. I think it's gonna help me out with the Pilot, giving me some recovery options off the front. You can see my new shackle is significantly bigger than my old one. A lot bigger. And this front hitch receiver, again, is rated for a 9,000 pound winch, and the hardware that I used is the equivalent of the hardware that came with the kit. So feeling pretty good about the ratings there, and we're gonna have to just test it in the field, but we've got some trips coming up that might just allow us to do that. So stay tuned. If you liked this video, go ahead and click like and subscribe, and if you want to see more, my wife says subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah.
Right, honey?